Mhm. Welcome. Happy, I was going to say Monday, but it's technically Tuesday. Yay, one day closer to
Yay.
the end. I'm Claire Wasserman, the founder and author of Ladies Get Paid. We are an educational platform, global community, and a book that is all about helping women earn more and live better. If you've been following along, you've known for the past couple of months, I've been hosting these daily lives on LinkedIn. It's also simultaneously streamed on YouTube and Facebook, yay technology. And on Fridays, I also include Instagram. However, it used to just be me sharing lessons, but I got lonely and bored. So instead, now I am asking amazing coaches who also share our mission and wanting women and other folks to earn more and live better to come on and to focus in an area that they feel really passionate about. And so for today, we have Adrienne Smith, who's a content strategy consultant and also career coach. I'm going to do just a very brief intro of Adrienne, but she knows herself best. So I'm going to then have her go into more detail about what she does. But after that, we're going to get into the topic that she wanted to focus on, which is how to expand into more strategic work and what that even means in order to expand your earning potential. Now, Adrienne Smith is a coach who is really for folks who are looking to break into more strategic work. That was the kind of one-liner you gave me, Adrienne. So I'm going to have you take it away and give more detail about the kind of coaching you do, how you got into it, and then why did you choose this topic for today's focus?
Sure. Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Adrienne Smith. And as Claire mentioned, I'm a content strategy consultant with early stage startups, but I also over the years have grown into becoming a coach because I was spending so much time connecting with independent consultants and freelancers like me about how our businesses worked and how we could expand and learn and grow when we worked on our own. And it just kind of naturally morphed into coaching. So these days I help predominantly freelance writers or freelance content folks who are learning to expand into more strategic work. And I help them navigate the transition, both in terms of what that work entails and how to do it, but also in terms of how to position yourself and sell yourself as a strategic thinker. It's been a journey of mine. Like I mentioned, I kind of moved into it just by nature of going through that transition myself and talking with others, because when you work independently, it's like you don't have a team, right? So your peers become your team. So that's a quick overview of my journey there.
Great. And then talk to me about why you chose this topic. Because when I went to all these coaches I know and I said, hey, I want to feature you, but you tell me what you're feeling most passionate about, why this topic of getting into more strategic work to increase your earning potential.
Mm-hmm. It's an overlap of two things that I feel that near and dear to my heart. One is the world of content, which is where my expertise lies. I have 13 years experience working in media and then also in content for companies looking to market themselves. But also, it's one of the biggest questions that I would find these fellow freelancers talking about, which is how can I learn and grow and make my business sustainable for the long haul? I'm in this for the long haul. And especially in content, you can be doing a lot of creation, which doesn't feel scalable and sustainable all the time, right? It's like you have to write the piece every time to get the work done and to get paid. So how can I make that more of like a wheel that's rolling on its own, and strategic work is the wheel? So it's kind of the combination of that firsthand experience and my expertise in content.
Awesome. Okay, so let's define strategic work. I know that was an important part for you.
Yeah, it's funny. I work so closely in the world of content strategy, and I really hate the word strategy, actually. And it's so much of what I talk about with my coaching clients too. But the word strategy just means so many things for so many different companies, leaders, and people that it takes a lot to even just get on the same page about what helping someone strategically can mean. And so I'm just going to take a little bit of a level set here to at least define how I think of it. So I think of strategy as your unique opportunity to solve a goal. It is not a plan, and it is not a list of tactics that you want to execute on. It's more of a map. So what does our unique opportunity look like to host an awesome event or kick off marketing on Instagram? Or what does our unique opportunity look like growing our customer base to 100,000 people? It can be as big or as small as the goal dictates. And then you're really trying to understand what your unique opportunity is to achieve that goal. So what you can do best in terms of your offering or your business's offering, what white space there is in the market that no one else is doing, and what your customers and your audience needs. The Venn diagram of, the white space, your customers, and your offering is where your unique opportunity lies for whatever your goal is.
Okay, awesome. How do you, if we could just pretend I'm a client of yours, I think that might be folks, and I'm new to your practice, and what might be kind of the first steps that you would take me through to figuring this stuff out?
Yeah. So when a client comes to me, when a coaching client comes to me and says, I want to be more strategic in my business, the first thing after defining what strategy means to them, the second thing, I guess, that we do is identify where their experience in strategy lies. And it's important for us to do that because I would say 95+% of people I work with think they have no strategy experience when they do.
Okay.
I think that comes from just when you're trying to grow into something, you might feel some imposter syndrome. Okay. But I also think because strategy is a nebulous thing, people don't realize that they have experience in this. So we first like to take a step back and think about how they have ever helped a client inform a plan. So for instance, if you're a freelance writer, when have you taken an assignment for, let's say, a blog post and written it and given it back? And when have you helped a client decide what to talk about or decide what format it should be? Should it be a blog post or should it be an Instagram post? When have you conducted research to help clients figure out what to talk about, like speaking with their customers or looking through something like Google Analytics or other tools? That's all strategic work to inform a plan and to identify your unique opportunity to achieve a goal, like what content to create or something like that. And so it's like one of the first wins that I like to have with my clients, because they realize, oh, I have some experience in this, right? I thought that strategy work had to be really big and really, intimidating. I had to create a strategy from start to finish in order to say I had experience. But I've done the research. I've done the type of thinking that asks, why should we do what we're doing? And what's our opportunity here? So that's usually the first step.
Awesome. And then, I titled this live, I said, how to strategically expand your earning potential. So I kind of combined your two, leaning into strategic work in order to expand your earning potential. I'd love us to now lean into the earning part.
Yes, it wouldn't be Ladies Get Paid if we didn't talk about that. So a few things. Strategy work is paid more than more executional or tactical work in most cases, because you are kind of moving up the food chain in terms of the need that a client has for you. If a client, again, to use the example of a blog post, if a client gives you an assignment, they know what they want and they're asking you to write a blog post, let's say. If a client comes to you with a question, what kind of topic should we talk about, or what kind of content should we create, or how do we, grow our readership? They don't know the answer to that. And there's a lot more literal monetary value in helping someone solve a problem. Strategy work is also more scalable. So to get back to what I was talking about earlier, where I just connected with so many other freelancers who are trying to figure out how to be in this game for the long haul and make this work sustainable. Strategy work is in a lot of ways more sustainable. That's because with each project, at least in my experience, each project gets easier, takes less time, and builds on what you've learned the last time. And so as your expertise grows and you're able to price higher and higher for your increasing level of expertise, the input required tends to go down. Mm-hmm. And so you can really scale your business.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So just a little recap for those watching who maybe don't think of themselves as strategists, perhaps are not interested in going into strategy work, but are here because they want to be strategic in their career to increase earning potential. It kind of sounds like when you are making the case for promotion, regardless of what you do, really dig in to the strategic component of your work, even though at first glance it may not be obvious what it is. It's there. If you put in you're solving a challenge, you're using your brain, it's strategy. And even that word, although I know you have some, you have some issues with the word, if that word then signifies higher earnings to your boss, then you should use that word. So I think this is just like a good frame of mind, a kind of good way to approach just upward trajectory, no matter what you do or what the title is of what you do. Would you say that's correct?
That's absolutely correct. If you have ever done work to inform a plan, because remember, a strategy is not a plan, but it's the unique opportunity that you can then build a plan around. So if you have ever done work to inform a plan or to inform the work that needs to be done, then you have done strategy work. And it's worth thinking about what that work entailed. And as Claire said, putting it on your resume or figuring out how to speak to it. Which I'll talk about a little further down or a little further on. But figuring out how to speak to that, because it is absolutely real and meaningful work.
Well, let's talk about it now. Yeah. How do you speak to it?
Yeah.
Well, nicely for that one.
Yeah. Nice transition. Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, when I first start working with my coaching clients, so many people feel like they don't have any strategy work under their belt. And so when we then work through how they can speak to their experience as a strategist or just their ability to help in the future, they feel like they want to hedge everything with, well, I'm not an expert yet, I'd like to grow into this, or I haven't done any of this work yet, but I could help you with this thing, right? And so the first thing I like to ask when figuring out how to speak to this is, what would you say if the other side, your boss, a potential client, whoever, if the other side already trusted that you were an expert? So you didn't have to convince them that you were an expert, but they already trusted it. How would you speak to the work that you do? And that puts them in a nice frame of mind where they don't have to cross the hurdle of hedging their expertise, if you will, or speaking to their expertise and kind of doing themselves a disservice. So that's a good first step. Once we've kind of gotten in that frame of mind of how we would speak to our strategic expertise, if the other side already trusted we were an expert, then we think about what that work entails, for whom, and why it's important to them. So for example, when I speak about the work that I do, I say, I'm a content strategist who helps early stage startups who are just getting started on their marketing journeys really figure out what their voice is, what they have to say, and how they're going to spread the word through content. That's important to them because they're early stage. They have product viability. I work with a lot of software platforms, so they have product viability. They're hitting the ground running with regard to sales. Now they need to grow it, but they don't know how to have that foundational first step, which is how they talk about themselves. So if we kind of break down that little pitch, right? It's like, yes, I spoke to the work that can be done, but I also connected it to who you're helping and why it's important.
Great. I just wanted to call out a blog post that you wrote, if you don't mind. So you wrote this in March. You said, reframing the value of content strategy in a panicked market. And you wrote, from the layoffs at big tech companies to the Silicon Valley Bank fiasco for small businesses, The business world is in a mild state of panic. As a result, work is weird. You may be experiencing any/all the below. Your pipeline is drying up. Clients have lower budgets. Clients are more risk averse. I get it. I'm seeing it myself. And I'll just say I don't have the solution. But I do want to share a way we can shift the narrative more in our favor. Adrienne, please, dear God, give us hope. What is that narrative shift?
Okay, so the narrative shift is about moving away from pitching or speaking to the work that you do in a vacuum, and more about adapting the goal that work is serving. I'm saying that in a confusing way, so let me try again. So if I think about the definition of content of strategy, it's identifying a unique opportunity to solve a goal, right? Mm-hmm. Companies' goals have shifted. And if we kind of go in with the same pitch about the work that we do and we don't recognize that the goals have shifted, then we are not matching with what they want. So at least in my experience, in marketing for earlier stage companies, their money is limited. And as my blog post said, work is weird right now. And they're holding on. They're less likely to take risks. They're looking for safer bets. And they're looking for safer bets in terms of cost effectiveness, but also in terms of the likelihood that it will work. And so I've shifted the way I speak about the work that I do away from like, we're doing all these things to grow quickly and scale rapidly and, reach a market at scale, and more towards we're going to figure out the like slow and steady, safe way for you to use content in your business. And so thinking about how people's goals have shifted around the work that they want to do is like the perfect way to connect strategy in a way that aligns with their goal.
Awesome. Any client success stories? Well, I'm sure you have many. So, any mind to really, or even for yourself in your own life, that really kind of illustrates your point of like leaning into making the case for why strategy work should be paid more.
Yes. So one of my favorite testimonials, I'll say, is a client said that the strategy work that we did documented what was on the tip of their tongues, but they didn't know how to say it themselves. Mm-hmm. And that made me so happy because a lot of strategy work doesn't blow your mind. It actually just documents, like this client says, what's on the tip of your tongue and what people know. They just can't really like get it out of their head into something clear and organized. And it made me happy because, again, to go back to my qualm about the word strategy is like, the word is just, it signifies nebulous, intimidating, complicated work. And at the end of the day, a strategy is successful if it's clear and simple and organized, and it tells you your unique opportunity to achieve a goal. And so if a client feels like I've done that and I've just articulated what's on the tip of their tongue, like that is the ultimate win for me.
Awesome. I love it. I actually want to dig into a little bit of the understanding the other side's goals. So I'm just thinking about in our conversation, how to like broaden it so we can bring in as, help as many different kinds of people as possible, even for those who don't consider themselves, quote, strategists in the traditional sense. Yeah. But to your point earlier of, especially in a market that is experiencing so much upheaval, meaning goals are changing. So what an original pitch might be, whether it was a pitch to be hired, a pitch for budget, for an opportunity, a pitch for a promotion, whatever it is, you want something, you need to be able to speak the language of the other side, right? That's just like negotiating 101. Mm-hmm. And the first thing I always find is really getting empathy for their goals, and more specifically, the blockers that they are experiencing from, between themselves today and where, that goal is. Do you have suggestions for how people can start to suss out what the other side's goals, needs, wants, challenges might be? Because you don't know what you don't know. And so oftentimes I find folks are like seeking answers when in fact they should actually be figuring out the questions to ask.
Yes.
And that's really hard to do. So, but like crucial and universal for anybody in any stage who just simply wants something.
Yes.
So I don't know, and Adrienne, for in your kind of work that you do and experiences that you've had in your life and with your clients, do you have suggestions for how people can kind of understand the other side's needs, wants, goals, and challenges better?
Yes, I had to write down some notes while you were talking because so much was coming to my mind and I didn't want to forget anything. So first, like you mentioned, empathy for the other side or the person that you're speaking with is critical. And as a strategist, being a good listener is so, so critical. And listening first before you come up with your big ideas or your unique opportunity is so important. And listening falls into a few categories here. First, exactly like you said, is listening to figure out the question that is being asked. That is a really, really important step. And I like to think of that stage as you having to ask 3 questions. Why, for instance, in my work, why content strategy? Why do you need help with content strategy? And that usually leads to discussing their challenges. Why now? Why is now an important time for you to do this work? And that usually leads to understanding their fears or uncertainties, for instance, about the market, right? Like we really feel like we need to do this now because we're losing customers in other parts of our business or revenue is down or something like that. And why me? Why do you think someone like me can be the person to help you? So listening first and trying to uncover those 3 answers is so important, as Claire mentioned, to figure out what the question is that they're asking, because sometimes they don't even have clarity on that.
Right.
Yeah, especially with strategic work. So listening first is really important. And then also recognizing the triggers that might happen on their end to get them thinking about this stuff. And they may mention that, they may give you some clues when you say, why now? But then recognizing what is needed on those triggers can be really helpful. For example, there are some bigger picture triggers that lead companies to think, okay, we might have to tweak our strategy here. Mergers and acquisitions, entering a new market. For instance, I worked with a client for years that was based in Israel and was trying to enter the United States. And so they needed a content strategy for entering the United States. Or I have a client now that's based in New York City and trying to enter the Midwest, right? That's like every location is different. So you need a new strategy for every location. New business offerings. So maybe a client used to offer, I don't know, skincare for your face, but they're expanding into skincare for the whole body and they need to figure out how the strategy shifts to support that. Or an expanded target audience. Like we used to just serve Gen Z, but now we're serving millennials too, right? Those are bigger triggers that require someone to think, is our unique opportunity changing? Do we need to figure out what the map looks like now that, this change has happened? And then there are smaller triggers too. Teams change and therefore different thinking comes in and they need help making the shift to that new thinking. Budgets change, budgets go down, which speaks to the state that we're in now. And companies are trying to adapt to working with more limited budgets, or budgets expand. Teams get restructured. So maybe a team, at least in my experience, had a marketing team and had a marketing structure, but they didn't have any content in place and they just hired some resources around content. So now they need to figure out the strategy there. So that's kind of the middle tier of triggers. And then at the bottom, it can be as simple as we want to host an event, right? What should the event be about? We want to, I think I said earlier, like we want to get started with Instagram. What should Instagram be about? Those are all changes that companies are making that require, before jumping into the to-do list, that require some thinking about, how should we approach this? What's our unique opportunity?
Nice. Awesome. So a question that I've asked every coach who comes on is just what are your kind of fundamentals that you would recommend folks work on consistently if they really want to build the muscle of self-advocacy, right? So becoming your own biggest champion in work, money, life. Every answer I've gotten has been pretty different, actually. So
That's
I'm curious,
cool.
what might those be?
Yeah. I feel really strongly about writing down your positioning on paper, and I can explain what that means. So when I say your positioning, I mean what's called a positioning statement. And almost every business does this exercise, but people rarely do. A positioning statement basically puts all of your key talking points about what makes you awesome into one place so that you can pull from it with anything that you're doing, whether you're pitching something or advocating for a raise or creating new content or whatever. It identifies who you help and what their needs are and what their challenges are. It identifies what your offering is, so how you help both functionally and emotionally, how you make people feel by helping. It identifies what you promise people can achieve by working with you. And it identifies what makes you differentiated from, I don't want to say a competitor, because sometimes, for instance, as a freelancer, we don't necessarily have a competitor, but what makes you different from what people would do if they didn't work with you. So your target audience, your offering, what you promise to help people achieve, and what makes you different are really important to get on paper. You might think that you innately know it in your head, but once you get it on paper, I have mine like right here on my desk in my drawer.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
God,
Yeah. Okay,
it.
let me show you. Let's see.
I love it.
Okay, this is putting me on the spot here. Let's see.
I mean, listen, guys, I got my crystals right here. Right next to me, so
yeah, here it is.
wow, I love it. This is so
where
awesome.
is it? Here, it's like you can see my vision. Oh, it's backwards. My vision, my mission, my goals, etc.
How often do you update that? Yeah, take us through that. We got a couple more minutes. I'd love just like the more concrete examples that we can show people how like we're implementing this stuff in our lives. I think it's going to be extraordinarily helpful.
Yeah, I can walk through that. The last thing I'll say first is that just by getting it on paper, it removes all the bullshit from your head of like, well, I'm actually not that differentiated, or I'm actually not that special. When you get it on paper, it's like such a simple act, but it makes it real. And so then you can become your own biggest champion because it's real, right? This is documented. I revisit this every year. So towards the end of each year, I think through my business at large. I spend pages and pages writing, reflecting on the year past and what worked and what didn't, and what I was challenged by. And then I revisit my positioning statement and make sure that everything still feels correct. I actually radically changed mine this year because of the work I had kind of naturally grown into with coaching and speaking with others. And I thought, you know what, my positioning needs to change to reflect that. It had really only reflected the work I was doing as a consultant. And so I revisit it once a year, but I check in on it probably quarterly and just make sure that I feel on track. It's like my North Star, and it also gives me confidence that I'm awesome.
Yeah. And you are. So tell everybody, how can they find you, follow you, and most importantly, pay you?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website at adriennesmith.com. I have a ton of resources there on this topic, specifically and usually for people in the content world, but just speaking about how to break into more strategic work. So I have a newsletter that you can subscribe to that goes out weekly. I have a blog with content that is published sporadically, I will say. And then I also have one-on-one coaching options that you can look at on my website. And then I'd also just love if you could connect with me on LinkedIn. I share a lot of my musings there.
Awesome. By the way, Debbie has a great question. Would you say that a quote positioning statement is similar to quote branding?
It is a part of branding, so it fits under the branding umbrella. It's one thing that you do while you're revisiting your branding. Other things include your visual identity, it's called. So what colors and fonts reflect who I am? your messaging, like what language do we use to speak, to share the talking points in my positioning. There are a lot of things that fall under branding, but positioning is one of the cornerstones.
Awesome. Good. Thank you so much. Thanks, Debbie, for that. Really appreciate you, Adrienne. Any last words of wisdom in your, well, I guess we're at time, but take your time. If there's anything else you'd like to share, this is the moment.
I was just going to say thank you for all the work that you do. I've been a part of Ladies Get Paid for, I think, 7 years now. So I've gotten so much value.
Because I haven't been doing it for 7 years, but close.
Really? Since 2017. I think I joined the Slack. Oh, is that 6 years? That's 6 years.
Yeah.
Well, I joined it in 2017. So
you're the best. Yeah. Yeah. No, I started in 2016.
Okay.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Shit. Oh no, it is much longer than I thought. I guess we're still in business, so that's good. You are OG. Thank you so much. We don't do this without you and everybody watching. So hopefully, people who are able to catch this after the fact, still comment. I'm here. Adrienne's here. We'll respond. Super appreciate you, and thanks, and go get paid.
All right. Bye.
Bye.